There you go. Congrats.
Wait, what's going on?
What's poppin'?
I mean, if you're watching the show, you should know that we doing this exclusive. We're with the man right now, Polo the Fur King.
Are you really? Hey, Polo.
Hey, what's happening, stranger?
Yeah, I know, stranger, long time no talk. Are you coming to my show?
I'm not gonna be able. When is it?
Man, I hold your shit in my closet, you homeless. But I'm trying to take care of the shit. When you come by, just wanna disrespect my chick, disrespect the crib. Try to understand, man, stop disrespect. And you wanna stand for my brother's mother's little baby brother. Try to understand why you caught so much trouble.
Hello and welcome to the BeLive Studios. We're here for our monthly installment of the Institute for Arts and Health at Lesley University, healing communities through the arts. And I am your host for today, Mitchell Kosak, one of the professors in the Expressive Therapies program and one of the co-chairs of the Institute for Arts and Health at Lesley University. And I'm here with Naj Wyckoff. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Going to say a little bit about Naj to begin with. Naj is an artist. He's the former head of arts and productions for the Cathedral Church of St. John the Divine in New York City. He was the director of healing arts at C. Everett Koop Institute at Dartmouth Medical Center School, founder of the National Institute for Arts and Health in the military, past president for the Society for Arts and Healthcare, and one of the founding board members for the Institute for Arts and Health at Lesley University. Welcome, Naj.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Naj is here to talk about his work with the military today.
Yes, thank you.
You want to just jump in and talk a little bit about how you got involved with the military and...
Well, I got involved in the military first. I had been running retreats for women living with cancer and other chronic diseases. And the program had been going on for about 15 years, and we started wondering, this was up in the Adirondack Mountains, and our team were wondering, one of our program would be help women veterans. And the reason we got thinking about that is because we had been reading in the New York Times the huge, incredible challenges that women who are living who are in their military, whether they're active duty or have served in the past, have had horrific experiences, not only with PTSD, but also with military sexual trauma and other outcomes of military service. And we first started modifying our program, and we found that worked.
When was this? What year was
this is about 7 years ago.
Okay.
And but a key part of us putting together a program was working, first we wanted to find out how best to work with the military. And that brought me to working with a chaplain of the National Guard in New York State. And he was a real eye-opener to some of the challenges the military face, but also the challenges of working with active duty and veterans. Because you're having to develop a whole new language. Like you, I've worked a long time in healthcare and with hospitals and situations like this, but working with the military is a whole nother kettle of fish.
Okay. And so what happened? You started some programs?
Well, the first thing we did, is that Chaplain Olson, Eric Olson, he helped us understand. One of the first things I realized was very critical is to have somebody like a chaplain to help us introduce us to the military way of life and the challenges. Because one of the things that a chaplain understands is the importance of storytelling.
Uh-huh.
And as you well know, that getting people to tell their stories, not everybody's comfortable about talking about their emotions directly. And
or their experiences.
Yes, and particularly in the military, because they have a real, it's a real area of keeping everything close to your chest, and you don't want to show weakness. And the chaplains, whether they are rabbis, whatever faith tradition they are, they're great listeners, and they can go up and down in rank. They can talk to a lot of different people, and people who in the military talk to them know that their stories are safe. It's not going to go down on their record.
Mm-hmm.
So they were a great door opener to us, to the military. Because if you're going to start working with the military or veterans, you need some sort of a door opener.
Mm-hmm.
Chaplains are great, veterans are great, or other active duty. You need some sort of a way in, and somebody who can help you learn the language and understand the mores and what's appropriate and not appropriate. So Chaplain Eric Olson was very helpful to us in terms of thinking about how to start our programs. Even though we're based on a successful model, we had to make some modifications. And he brought us over to Fort Drum.
Okay.
Where there we met the chaplains for the Wounded Warrior Program.
Okay.
And that person really helped us understand that, in a sense, what the military experience is like. And if you think of the work of Joseph Campbell,
Okay.
The Hero's Journey,
Okay.
that's maybe, for some people, might be a good way of looking at it. In the hero's journey, the hero, in a sense, he's going to leave normal society, and that takes a sort of traumatic experience. He has to break the mores, break the connections, and often they take place in a very rude way. So if you think of boot camp, or if you think of somebody who is already active duty, often before they leave, it's not a simple leave. Is they're going to all of a sudden leave, and then it got postponed 2 weeks. And there's a bit of this back and forth at times, particularly when they're going, very active duty, like going over to Iraq and Afghanistan, and that helps sever the bonds, with the family, sever the bonds with the community, almost like people ready for them to go, which is very important. They need to go, in a sense, with a certain enthusiasm. But once they're in there, you develop mentors.
Yeah.
And you're also going to go through some sort of experience that radically changes you. And it could be, and it's like the death of the old self and the birth of a new self. If you think of a lot of people who have served, in many respects, the military service is something, it's profound throughout the rest of their life. Because they've had an incredible shift in their life that took part with another group of people. And they often will say after they come back, well, people don't understand what I went through. And in fact, that's true. So it's very important for me as a person who has not, shall we say, served in Vietnam or some experience like that, not to say I understand what you went through, because frankly I don't. But I can say, tell me, I would like to know. So you really need to be careful with your language, that you don't assume or just be, no matter how many times you've heard somebody's story, that you know what they've been through, because and that's important in building relationships. So I guess I'm spending a little bit of time on this, because I think the way you develop that relationship with people who have served or serving is very important. And also the other thing to understand is, no matter what that horrific experiences they've had, it could be witnessing somebody that's died, or a friend that died near them, or all manner of different things. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the death. But the hardest part for them in many respects is the transition back to society. Right. Because what's happened, they've been profoundly changed.
Right.
And many in the military have been married, might have families.
Right.
And so the person who's come back is not the same as the person that spouse married.
Right.
So this is a very difficult transition.
Right.
These transitions do provide great opportunities for the arts to help people communicate with each other, help them reconnect with themselves, help them reconnect with their family, help them reconnect with society. And that's the opportunity.
Right. Yeah, it makes me think about this recent movie with Bradley Cooper. I don't know if you saw that movie. He's a sniper in
yes,
Afghanistan.
I did see that movie.
And it's really about the psychological toll it takes on him coming back, his family, and what you're talking about.
Profound. And also, you notice he never saw himself as a hero.
Right.
A lot of other people saw him. He's just doing his job.
Right.
And that's very, very true.
Right.
He's not trying to, in a sense, being humble. It is part of his job.
Right.
And part of his job, for instance, was to kill people.
Right.
And so we're asking our servicemen and women to do something that's not would not be appropriate within our own given society. And so sometimes what's difficult is to thank them when they come back. What are you thanking me for? Killing somebody? I mean, on one hand, they want recognition, but further, they want understanding.
So I know you brought a few images along today to help us
sort of jumped around
to connect here, but maybe the images might help connect some of the story that you're trying to.
So
see if I can
let's
cue
start
this
with
up.
the fact that National Geographic magazine, put a major story on the healing of our soldiers.
Yeah.
And this soldier is holding a mask that he made that reflects upon his service and what happened to him at that time. But it demonstrates that how important this issue is, that for a national magazine like that, and not only that, and how important the arts can be in terms of that transition back to home.
Right. So how we heal the wounds.
I think it's very important to think it's not just a physical wound or a mental wound, but really PTSD can be seen as a soul wound. It's a really profound, because again, as I said, they're being asked to do things that are against the normal mores of society. And also what's difficult today in today's war is that when they are in, let's say, Iraq or Afghanistan, anybody could be the enemy.
Right.
And everybody's dressed the same. Somebody could be pulling out a cell phone. It might be a cell phone or it might be setting off a bomb.
Right.
And everybody's vulnerable, whether it's somebody driving a truck, the cook, or the soldier, or whomever it is. Everybody's vulnerable.
So let's jump into how you're working with these soldiers, and how you have, and I know you have the slide here about creating a safe space.
Well, I think it's so important there. What this thing is, you want to create a circle, a sense of relationship. And whatever is said here stays here, and rank is left at the door. That whole thing of breaking bread and creating a shared story or a gift.
Right.
But what is important to understand is if you want somebody to be vulnerable, if you want a soldier, a sailor, an Air Force person to share their emotions, you need to reflect what you want from them. If I want you to be open to me, I have to be open to you. If you want quality listening, you have to listen to that. Now, that one slide that we went back a second ago is about Miss America. One of the things I learned when I went to Fort Drum is they're wary of the people who come in and they're razzle-dazzle, and then Miss America comes with a crown and all this stuff, and it's exciting, a lot of photographs, but then they're gone the next day.
Right.
They want somebody who's going to be there for the long haul, who's not there to make money after them, but generally there to listen and be there and be present through the good days and the bad days. So they're not looking for somebody, a quick thing. And I think that's very important to understand.
So let's talk about some of the ways that the arts have been used. I see you have the slide here we talked about one of these films, and here are a few other films.
The Hurt Locker, Taking Chance, or Sparta. There's been some really great films and documentaries out, and what they've been doing is trying to help the American public understand that military experience. Understand that less than 1% of the population has participated in the military, and half of that has actually participated in combat. So we're talking a very small minority. So the vast majority of Americans truly, it's not like World War II when we were on such a combat basis, or even in Vietnam when so many people had family members over there. Right now we have a lot of people who just do not understand the military point of view. So things like those movies, things like some of the Doonesbury strips have been really great in helping to educate the general population about the overall realities of the military experience, such as the movie that you talked about earlier. And that's going to help us, in a sense, welcome our soldiers and sailors, our loved ones, back into our community. We're a little bit more sensitized.
I wonder if you can talk a little bit about some of the work that you actually have done.
Well, I have done, as I said, I've worked for our retreats and programs for women. All the faculty are women. So, I'm happy out there as the head of the organization and out raising the money. But
I see.
We have We want to create a very safe space for women. So one, we have women faculty who've been through some really difficult times. We have some who are, have military experience, and we try to really develop that type of safe environment. So critical. I've worked with military families, and I've worked with men from the military.
Okay.
So I've worked in those areas. It's appropriate for me to do that.
Right.
But for working with women, again, I want to make sure that the women feel safe.
And so what happens in these, are they workshops, are they trainings, are they?
Well, the first thing that we do is when they come, we get everybody in a circle, and we try to find out what people want out of this experience. And we want it because we need to see how we need to modify the program, make sure that then when they leave at the end of the day or the end of the weekend or however long it is, that we've met some of their needs. So it's very critical to find out what people want, and again, to give them constantly give them choice. Because often you don't have a lot of choice in the military. We want to give them choice. There can be choice to do nothing. And again, we want them to open up. We find by really being good listeners that people really radically will open up often the first time. And because it's really the first time they had a chance, and they learn from each other that they're not alone with their feelings. And we try to, as I know you as an expressive therapist well know, the importance of the story, to help them find out where they've been, where they are, and where they hope to go. And often so people then find they're not alone with their challenge or some of their dreams. And then you try to help them look back and say, if that's where you want to be, how did you get there from here? And we try to use the arts, whether it's music, whether it's poetry, whether it's whatever the art form is, to help them tell that story. Now, for some people, a great way to start sometimes is making something functional, some functional objects, and that often is very profound, so they can give a gift that has some meaning. Oftentimes, a serviceman or woman comes back, let's say from Iraq, they've been away for half a year, and they come almost like Santa Claus with all these gifts. They want to shower it on, but it's sort of like, well, after the party's over, then what? But in many ways, it creates something small that's very, very personal. It's far more profound and far more helping people to connect. And by the same token, for the military families, for them to create very personal things to send over to their loved one, you want to help maintain that human connection as much as possible. And the arts can be a very valuable way of doing that.
So I assume many of the participants that take part in these experiences are not trained artists or musicians or
in terms
theater
of
people.
In terms of our faculty, one, you can't. On one hand, as you know, creative arts therapists are highly trained in terms of the arts, using the arts for a therapeutic outcome. If you're going to use professional artists, which are terrific in these situations as well, they too have to be trained how to work with special populations and know what they can do and what they can't do. In other words, they can't see themselves as a therapist because they haven't had that type of training. But there's a lot of things they do. They might have some therapeutic benefits, but what they can do is help them learn how to use the arts, to express their emotions, or use the arts to help them set pain aside, or use the arts just for expression in a variety of different ways, or make something personal. So there's ideally, I find the best teams are a mix of creative arts therapists, whatever that might be, and professional artists together. And again, that the professional artists have to have training to work with special populations.
Let's talk a little bit about the space itself and healing spaces, because I know you've been involved with that. And here's just a slide at Walter Reed, some of the spaces that they've created. Well,
I think the first thing to do, if you imagine your favorite space at home, think about all the things you have in it, the plants, the colors, what you see out the window, whatever photographs and paintings. Imagine if that was your hospital room, how much better you would feel. So right off the bat, we want whether it's a hospital or military hospital, to try to make it as welcoming as humanly possible. Nature's profoundly powerful images to include as part of that process. Now, military people tend to like also some images of flags, of things that reflect honor, eagles, stuff like that. But they also need the natural environment. They need images of their family. They need. You want to create an environment as personal as possible and as welcoming as possible.
And they've been able to do that at Walter Reed and other
Walter
military
Reed
hospitals?
has been a fantastic pioneer. They have been a partner of and one of the partners that helped founded the National Initiative for Arts and Health in the military, and that was done by Americans for the Arts, Creative Healing Connections, the National Endowment for the Arts, a wide array of organizations and individuals. So it was not, by the way, just me. It was a group of people and organizations that came together, and we came together when the new Walter Reed was being established to launch this initiative literally a week after it was opened. And it's been very successful, and Walter Reed has really opened itself up to the arts, and it's been a fantastic place to test out how the arts and humanities has been able to help with the healing process and then start to roll it out to VAs and to DOD medical facilities.
So we know this, the work that you've done and that you've been behind organizing, particularly in the DC area, Walter Reed, has been quite successful. And I'm wondering, what can we do here in the Cambridge area locally? How can we get involved? How can we get involved with helping policy, and get into?
I think you have a lot of opportunities. First off, Boston area, Massachusetts, New England has had a tremendous number of people who are veterans who have served in the military. Right now, active duty is shrinking, and the veteran population, is increasing. So I think the greatest opportunity for people in the Cambridge area is to work with veterans. So that's where I would start. And I think that there's a wide variety. And first, what you want to do is put together, I would say, you need some veterans from different services. I would certainly involve, if at all possible, some chaplains. And you need some people to help you find out what's the reality in this area. Who's here? What are the ages? What are the challenges they're facing? One of the difficulties, and for instance, because you want to get into like the VA, generally you need a soldier or a sailor or somebody, a veteran to invite you in. But find, in a sense, talk to people you know. I know veterans. Everybody does. Well, find some from your community to help you find out what are the opportunities, what are the needs, what are the challenges they're being faced, what are the services already being provided, and what are the opportunities for the arts within that sphere. And I suspect could be quite something, and it can be quite powerful. I mean, because you have phenomenal cultural resources here. You have places like Leslie, which is cranking out so many talented people. So to me, you have all the elements that you need.
Well, we only have a couple more minutes left.
Yeah.
It's gone by quickly,
huh?
But I know I just want to touch on maybe some of these. You did a retreat for women veterans. I'm going to put up on the screen here.
Yeah, we were one of the first in the country, and this was held at Weowaka Holiday House on Lake George, which is the oldest retreat in the country, created by women for women. It was created by the suffragettes of Troy. But it was a profound experience for women from a wide range of services, from Korean War on right to their current force coming together. And we used a wide variety of different experiences, from massage and Reiki and you could say the complementary arts to arts activities and storytelling. So we used music making, and it was a profound experience for these people. This is what you're showing them now is a Warriors Resiliency Retreat, which I led. And for a lot of these the soldiers, now this was the National Guard, and this was first responders to war and terror. And one of the things they asked us to do out of that was to create a retreat for their spouses, which we did. And so then we, but weekend we got them drawing their experiences and sharing their emotions, and went on from there. But they really, it meant a lot to them. But we also, of course, had to combine with that with a lot of physical activities. Now, what's key was when you work with the military or anybody, you want to open with the ritual and you want to close with the ritual. That sense of ritual, that sense of, coming back together is really important. And also what's important is follow through. It's not a one-shot deal. You have to be available for those people for, on into the future.
So when you say you have to be available to them on into the future, how does that work?
To give you an example is that a lot of the people who've been to our retreats now have this network of people. Many return, come back. Some move on, but we're very pleased to see the number who have reduced the amount of meds they now use and stuff like that. But they know that we're not just doing one-shot deal. We're out there working with them. We involve now some of our former participants as part of our team to help us raise funds, because we want to make sure that any person who wants to come can afford to come, so that cost is never a barrier. And the basic thing is you got to be willing to come, and we'll open a door and find a place for you.
Right.
And that takes commitment to do it over time, to keep out there working, knocking on doors.
So who's part of your team? And
well, Leslie's part of my team and extends right down here, as you well know. Yeah. And the Leslie Institute, we're now working with the Creativity Center. So I think there's going to be some really new, exciting things coming out of Leslie.
Right.
So I would say for people in this area, contact our foundation, as you well know, contact you, and we'll be happy to work with them.
And coincidentally, tomorrow morning we're meeting with
the mayor's office, which is terrific.
The mayor's office of Boston to talk about the how we can institute more of the healing arts in the Boston area.
Yeah, and
also you'll be part of that.
And also, ideally, hopefully for the police, because don't forget, we have a lot of people who are today who really put themselves on the line emotionally, who also can the arts, I think, could benefit to help them, let go of some of the difficulties of being in the police, which is profound.
Right, I know you've done some of that work locally, and I know in Russia you did some of that work.
That's right, I did, yeah.
So maybe at another future show we can bring you back and talk about your work with the police.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me.
Thanks for coming here.
It went very quickly, and I know we could have gone for hours.
Yeah, so just want to remind you that this is part of the ongoing Institute for Arts and Health, healing communities through the arts, and we'll be back next month with another exciting